I just used this graphics card in my latest PC build, and I wanted to give you a rundown on what it offers. This is XFX's Speedster QICK 319 Radeon RX 6750 XT Core Gaming Graphics Card. In this video, I'm going to unbox it. I'll go over all of its base specs and features. I'll cover some reasons why you might want to choose this graphics card for your system, as well as some reasons why you might not want to choose it. I'll also show you what it's like installing this graphics card, and then I'll show you how it performed across a handful of games. This card comes with 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM and operates at a base clock of up to 2,283 MHz, but it can run at speeds of up to 2,533 MHz with its game clock and max out at 2,623 MHz with its boost clock. For cooling, this XFX card sports XFX's Ghost Thermal Triple Fan Cooling Solution that comes with 13 blade fans, 5 copper-plated heat pipes, and a sleek-looking aluminum backplate that is all black with the XFX logo cut out and the QICK branding in white lettering. In terms of size, this card is fairly bulky, measuring in at around 323 millimeters long with a 2.6 slot design. XFX recommends that you use at minimum a 650 watt power supply to power a system using this graphics card in it. It also requires dual 8-pin PCIe power connections as well. From an aesthetic standpoint, this card looks great. It doesn't have any RGB lights on it, but its ghost thermal design is sleek looking and the black and silver color scheme flows really nicely. Installing this card is a fairly straightforward process as well. It's going to depend a bit on your case. Now, I built my system inside of an Okeanos Aqua 3, and to install this card, I had to remove this back panel and the second and third expansion slots. Then I just installed the card in the uppermost PCIe slot, screwed it into the back panel, and screwed this panel back into place. From there, I just connected 2 8-pin PCIe connectors from my power supply to the graphics card, and it was good to go. I paired this graphics card with an AMD Ryzen 5 5600X processor and 16 gigabytes of Team Group's DDR4 3600 MHz memory. And for gaming performance, I benchmarked my system at both 1080p and 1440p resolution across a handful of games. This graphics card handled Fortnite very well. Note that it didn't provide the greatest average frame rate at the Epic preset at both 1440p and 1080p resolution. Now, Fortnite isn't known as a tough to run game, but it is actually fairly taxing to run at maxed out graphics settings. However, most serious Fortnite players play the game at lower settings in order to achieve as high of an average frame rate as possible. And as you can see, this graphics card was able to average well over 100 frames per second at the high and medium preset, and over 200 frames per second at the performance preset at 1080p resolution. Even at 1440p resolution, this card was able to hit over 100 frames per second at the medium preset and nearly 200 frames per second at the performance preset. So if you wanted to, you could pair this GPU with a high refresh rate monitor, either 1080p or 1440p, to gain a slight competitive advantage in Fortnite, and the same goes for other competitive first-person shooter titles too. This RX 6750 XT had no problems running Assassin's Creed Valhalla. At 1080p resolution, this card was able to achieve an average frame rate of 134 frames per second. It could even run the game fairly well maxed out at 1440p resolution too, averaging just under 100 frames per second. This despite the fact that Valhalla is a fairly difficult game to run. The card also ran Cyberpunk 2077 very well at 1080p resolution. The combination of the RX 6750 XT, the Ryzen 5 5600X, and the 16 gigabytes of RAM were able to deliver an average frame rate of 114 frames per second at the Ultra setting. And while the results at 1440p weren't quite as good, the card still managed to average over 70 frames per second on the Ultra preset at the higher resolution. And at the high graphics preset, which still looks very good, the 6750 XT was able to average over 100 frames per second. Note that the ray tracing performance for this card wasn't ideal. That's to be expected though, as even higher end cards have a tough time running Cyberpunk 2077 at the more extreme ray tracing settings. Baldur's Gate 3 was a breeze at both 1080p and 1440p resolutions, averaging 137 frames per second on the Ultra preset on our 1080p display and averaging 90 frames per second on the Ultra preset on our 1440p display. Even though Palworld is still in development and isn't perfectly optimized yet, this 6750 XT was still able to run the game easily. It averaged 84 frames per second at the Epic preset at 1080p resolution and over 100 frames per second turning the graphics down to the medium preset. Running the game at 1440p resolution proved to be a bit more challenging, but the card still averaged over 90 frames per second on the medium setting. Again, this game is still in development, so I suspect these numbers will improve as time goes on, but this card will get your feet in the door. While we benchmarked this graphics card in some more demanding titles, it's important to note that this card will easily be able to handle popular non-demanding titles like Minecraft, Roblox, Valorant, League of Legends, Apex Legends, or Rocket League as well. Overall, I'm very happy with the performance that the XFX RX Speedster QICK 319 RX 6750 XT provided me. It offers ideal performance at 1080p resolution, solid performance at 1440p resolution, and it looks great in our build as well. This card would make sense for anyone who is looking for a moderately priced graphics card for either 1080p or 1440p gaming. However, if you're looking to play extremely demanding titles at 1440p resolution and you want to be able to run them at maxed out settings, this RX 6750 XT may not be the best option for you. This card did do well at 1440p gaming, but in some of the more demanding titles we tested it on, it did struggle to hit over 100 frames per second on maxed out settings. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't do bad at 1440p resolution, and you will still be able to run the majority of games at max settings with ideal results at the higher resolution. But just note that there are some games where at 1440p resolution, you will have to turn down the graphics settings a bit in order to achieve a comfortable frame rate. It's also important to note that the size of this graphics card won't make it a great choice for everyone. At 323mm long, this card won't fit in a lot of small form factor cases. So if you're building a mini ITX or micro ATX system, you'll want to double check that the case you choose can actually hold this card. Ultimately, I've had a great experience using this card, and I think it's one of the better options in its price range. In any case, that does it for this review. Hopefully the information provided has helped you make your decision easier. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time.